it's Jamie from My Baking Addiction. I get a lot of emails from readers asking various questions, everything from prop information and camera equipment to recipe recommendations. However, one of the most common questions I get is regarding the piping tips that I use to decorate my cupcakes with. I thought I would take a few minutes and shoot my very first video and show you the piping tips that I use, as well as the not so technical methods that I use to frost my cupcakes. Keep in mind that if you decide to order these piping tips, they'll arrive to your door all shiny and nice. Mine just appear to be spotted and kind of dull because they've been placed in my dishwasher more times than I really care to admit. The first tip that I have here is a giant round tip, and that's this one, and that is from Bake It Pretty. The second tip that I have here is a giant French tip, and that's also from Bake It Pretty. And the last tip that I have here is a Wilton 1M, and I just picked that up at Michael's. I also have a ton of other tips that I keep in this little handy dandy tip container, which I may break out at another time, but for now these are the three that I use the most. Now that I showed you my favorite piping tips, I figured I would show you how I use them. The first thing I do is take a large plastic cup. I got this at Bed Bath & Beyond. They came in a set of, I think, like 4. And then I take my piping bag, which already has the tip attached to it. This is the 1M from Wilton. And I place the piping bag down into the cup and then just sort of fold over the bag down the side of the cup, like so. Then you can kind of put your hand in there to sort of release some of the air bubbles a little bit. And then I just take my icing, or frosting. This is a simple caramel buttercream frosting that I use to frost some Snickers cupcakes with. So once you do that, you just release the bag, and the cup really just makes it a little bit easier than to do it in your hand, but you can totally just fold it down over your hand as well. And then you'll have some room at the top with no frosting because the stuff can kind of seep out a little bit. And apply some pressure on the bag and get to piping. Okay, now that we have our frosting in our bag, we are going to frost some cupcakes. On the plate I have just some very simple chocolate cupcakes that have been baked in chocolate brown liners that are also from Bake It Pretty, and they have been cooled completely. In the piping bag I have the caramel buttercream frosting as well as the Wilton 1M tip down in there. So what I do is just sort of twist the top of the bag and hold my hand here and apply pressure, sort of even pressure, and go around. And there you go. Easy. Do one more for you with the Wilton 1M. Again, just sort of apply pressure, swirl around, and release. And it sort of creates like a ribbon-like effect on there that is really pretty. Okay, the next tip that I'm going to be using is that giant French tip, which is from Bake It Pretty. Kind of looks like that at the end. Okay, so this is definitely the tip that I get asked the most questions about. And I use this in a couple of different ways. The first way is to just hold the tip directly over the middle of the cupcake that you want to frost and push down and push out until the frosting pretty much covers the entire top of the cupcake. Another way that I do decorate with this tip, after I just smushed that cupcake's icing, is to just swirl it around. Like that. And those are both done with the giant French tip from Bake It Pretty. Okay, the last tip that I'm going to show you today is the giant round tip from Bake It Pretty. And that looks like this, okay? And I pretty much use this in the same way that I use the giant French tip to frost this cupcake. And that is to just go around the cupcake And I'll show you that one more time because I have a little bit more frosting in here. So just go around the cupcake, and you can even just do it smaller. You don't have to go around the whole 3 times. That's just twice. And it kind of just creates a little swirl action, I guess is what you would call it. That's it for this video. I hope you had fun watching, and I hope you learned a couple of things about how I do things. Like I've said before, I am not a pastry chef, nor do I claim to be one. I'm just showing you guys kind of what works for me and what gives me the effect that you see in the pictures on my baking addiction. Have a great day.